Story 1. AITA for leaving my whole adult stepbrother home. My 21 female stepbrother Joseph 22 male is home from college. Originally his plan was to stay with us for a night, and then stay with his friend for most of the break except for Christmas Eve and Christmas. Joseph was helping his dad replace a second-story window on our house the other day, and fell, got a concussion and broke his elbow. He had a quick surgery to put in some pins or whatever. My mom asked me to clear out my second room, his old room, since he would be staying a little longer than planned. I cleared off the bed and then went to visit with my friend. When our parents got back with Joseph, they got mad that the room wasn't in good enough conditions for his high standards, I guess. I came back and cleaned up more of the room. Yesterday he just laid around in the room all day, and to my knowledge didn't need much. My stepdad had to work and my mom had to leave for a couple of hours to pick up my grandparents from the airport and take them home. They told me to watch after Joseph as if he's a child. When they left, I peeked into his room and he was asleep. I went to go see my friend again. I left his meds, a cup of water, and a note saying where I was and to call me if he needed anything, otherwise I'd be back a little later. I meant to only be gone for an hour or so, but you know what happens when friends get to talking and catching up. Plus this was going to be the last time I'd get to see her because she's going out of town with her family for 2 weeks then back to school. And our first visit already got interrupted. Well, to my surprise, my mom brought my grandparents back to the house so they could eat a quick dinner before driving them the rest of the way to their house. She called me upset and told me to get home. Later, when she got back again and Joseph's dad got home, they lectured me about trust and irresponsibility, going so far as to say I was a selfish brat for leaving when they told me not to. My argument back was that Joseph slept through everything and was fine. Besides that, while yes I get he's hurt, he's a grown adult and can take care of himself, and he could have called me if he needed something. I wasn't far away, and they didn't even tell me not to leave, they just said to watch after him. That doesn't require me to hover by his bedside for hours. A day later and my mom has come around, but my stepdad is still angry. He made the decision to take a sick day today so he could stay home, but now he's blaming me for that even though it was his choice. I told him he didn't have to because I didn't have any plans, but all he says is that's not the point. AITA or who is the awe? Edit. They were told to let him sleep and wake him every few hours for meds. I was not told to wake him up. Story 2. AITA for taking away my family's gifts because of something I overheard. Context. Me 31 male and my long-term boyfriend 30 male bought a house together last June. I have a big family, with 8 cousins and around 20 nieces and nephews, and I'm the oldest of my generation. I also have a pretty high-paying job and so does my boyfriend. My boyfriend hasn't had any contact with his family for over a decade and has been coming to my family's celebrations since before we were dating. Within my family I am known to be a bit of a splurger with gifts, and the kids are always excited for my gifts because they're usually big things like Lego sets and things of the sort. Now with the story, so today or yesterday I guess, my family held a pre-Christmas celebration since we will not be able to meet up anytime this year after this week. It was held at me and my boyfriend's new house, the first family event we've had here. My boyfriend really wanted to take part in the gift giving, so went all out with gifts, spending an average of $100 per person. He was so excited to give everyone their presents since we spent not only money, but also a lot of time picking everything for everyone. The festivities were a hit, and my boyfriend and I stepped away for a bit to have some quiet time together. While we were resting on the stairs, we overheard my cousin 17 female chatting with my niece 15 female. They were joking around about a few family members and mentioned my boyfriend and how he was too gay to function. Honestly, we didn't mind it too much. It's a movie reference and their kids. But then another cousin 24 male came in and began making harsher jokes, which the kids laughed at. These jokes brought my boyfriend to tears and I refused to let that slide. When the gift trading began, I took the 3 aside and let them know that I wasn't happy with their comments and that they weren't okay to say. I told them to apologize to my boyfriend because it was unfair to him, and they refused because they were just jokes that we weren't meant to hear. I told them I didn't care and they had to apologize. They refused again, and I told them that since they don't respect him, they don't deserve the presents we got for them. This got them to backtrack and say they'd apologize, but I told them it was too late, but they should still apologize. This is where I think I might have been too harsh. The youngest of my cousins told her mom, my aunt, that I was refusing to give her and the other 2 their presents, and she was angry about it. She told the parents of my niece and the male cousin's dad and partner about it, and all of them made a huge fuss. Me and my sister kicked them out, and when they tried to grab their presents before leaving, I stopped them and rushed them out the door. The whole thing fell apart after that, and it all ended very abruptly. So, AITA for kicking them out and taking away their gifts over jokes. Story 3. AITA for what I said to my brother-in-law. Background: I am 27 female, and have congenital amusia. It means that I'm tone deaf. I physically can't tell the difference between close notes and can't hum a melody or tune because it just doesn't work in my head as it all sounds the same. As a result, music is just sort of an annoying noise to me, which is pretty common for people with amusia, and I don't really listen to it. It almost never comes up, but my brother-in-law, 24 male, is a music teacher at a secondary school, so I mentioned my condition when we met when he was in training because my own music teacher had been really good with helping me enjoy the subject. Brother-in-law is absolutely horrified that I don't enjoy any kind of music and continues to bug me about it to this day. We had a get-together with my husband's family for mother-in-law's birthday, and he started talking to me again about it. He said that he didn't understand how I could be so boring and uninterested in music and not be bothered to make an effort to adapt. I told him that if he didn't shut up about the subject after I'd repeatedly told him over the years I'd mentioned to my friend who also works at his school that he was SHTQI about my music-related disability, and I was concerned about how he treated his pupils. He got very offended and I got pissed, and the whole thing caused a bit of a scene. The family took sides, my mother-in-law and husband on mine, my father-in-law and sister-in-law on his, and so my husband and I just went home so that it would stop, as I was still pretty pissed. Father-in-law and sister-in-law understand that I needed to say something to him to get him to stop, but that I went too far with threatening his job. I think if he's fine treating me like this, then he shouldn't have a problem with his colleagues knowing about it. AITA. Story 4. AITA for getting my mom shunned and outcasted by her friend group because I didn't want to inform nor invite her friends to my wedding. I am 24 female and my now husband 26 male wanted to have a very small wedding that only consisted of our immediate family and best friends. Our small wedding of 8 guests excluding our parents happened in my apartment living room. To save for a house in Europe, I made sure to keep my wedding a secret because I didn't want the stress of handling other people's reactions, since the usual wedding in my circle is extravagant and at the roof of a skyscraper or high-end resort, hotel. Edit. Weird sentence structure. I went to the same school from elementary to high school, and the moms of our batch made a friend group and still socialize to this day. I didn't really keep it hidden from my mom that I was bullied by a great chunk of the batch for most of my years there, so my mom understands how I would prefer to keep the wedding very small instead of being selective and hurting someone's ego. In school, the people who openly bullied me stopped when one of them stood up for me. In middle school, we became best friends and she attended my wedding. 2 girls who transferred in after and didn't bully me also became my best friends and were invited to my wedding. I consider all 3 of them my maid of honor MOH. We finally posted the wedding and lunch party to social media, and my mom's group chat was filled with surprise. I was first in my batch to get married, and sadly, there were less of congratulations and more of angry people expressing betrayal because they weren't informed of. From as far as my engagement, they expressed that it was congruent to their best friend getting married without getting invited nor informed at all. I felt confused by this, because these people were neither my best friend, nor were I best friends with their child in school. Nevertheless, I told my mom to use me as the excuse to dampen the fire, as I the bride wished for this secrecy, and not my mom. They instead insisted that it shouldn't have mattered because a mother's decision triumphs a daughter's. After my mom's attempt to reassure them, they turned to painting me as the opportunist narcissist who only cares for herself since I didn't inform them of my wedding, and for using my MOHs for an extravagant wedding, which was far from the truth. A selective group of the parents in my mom's friend group started pitting fights between my MOHs and I by personally messaging the MOHs. When that didn't work, they pitted my MOHs' moms to each other, which unfortunately somehow worked. My mom, being overwhelmed by all this, blocked the people fanning the flames. They took this as evidence to show how the apple doesn't fall from the tree, and how easy it is for my mom to throw more than a decade of friendship down the drain. Since I moved to Europe with my husband, my mom is isolated. My father's busy with work and my brother is busy studying abroad. I feel awful when I video call her and she seems depressed seeing her closest friends now scared to even reply to her chat. Edit. Thanks so much for your encouraging words and feedback, guys. This really helps me ease my worries. I'll be visiting my mom for a whole month soon. I'll take this time to bring my mom to hobby groups to help her find new friends. Thank you for the suggestions. Story 5. AITA for refusing to help care for my former stepmother. My former stepmother, my late father's widow, is terminally ill. I have not seen her since his death 7 years ago. I kept minimal contact with my half-siblings 15 and 16 through her, but not closely either. My relationships with them were complicated and I do not care for the woman at all. My former stepmother's brother contacted me and told me she needs someone to take care of her now and it should not fall on my half-siblings and cannot fall on him as he lives in another state. Her condition is terminal and they believe she has less than a year left. I was told by her brother that I should take responsibility for helping to care for her given she was my stepmother for many years of my life. and she is the mother to the 2 kids I should be willing to take in once she has passed. He told me refusing to care for their mother is going to permanently end my relationship with them. For those wondering about background, my mom and my former stepmother were very close friends, and before my mom's death, my former stepmother and father betrayed her by carrying out an affair. I overheard the fight when my mom found out the truth. Once my mom had passed, my former stepmother decided to create a huge scene at my mom's funeral, and insulted my mom's parents and insulted her sisters for saying my former stepmother had no place at the funeral. She tried to say as my future stepmother and my mom's closest friend she would always have a place. I called her names that day. She told me I would regret it one day. That day has never come, but she did revel in telling me all my mom's flaws after she and my dad married. I never saw Dad the same way either, but he refused to let the relationship go completely and did his best to maintain contact once I left his house. He died when I was 20. I told him I would not care for his sister, and I made it very clear to him that I was not going to make her end of life any easier than she made my mom's. My half-siblings called me and told me their mom was asking for me, and they were scared and wanted me to be there at the end. They said she needs someone to help her, and they can only do so much with school, that they hate leaving her alone. I told them I was sorry and I knew what it was like to watch your mom slowly fade, but that I was not the one to do it. My half-brother asked if I didn't love her at all after all this time. I said no. He told me to stay the hell away then and from them as well. My father's sister heard about all that happened and she told me I should be more mature than that and I should be more loving and compassionate to my half-siblings. She told me I should love them more than I hate their mom and agreed to care for her to make their next year a lot less stressful. When I refused, she called me a cruel and selfish person, and she told me I was behaving like the very person I hated the most. AITA. Story 6. AITA for letting my family show clear favoritism. I have a daughter 14 and a stepson 16. We are not exactly financially struggling, but we live paycheck to paycheck and we can only afford necessary expenses. My brother and sister are very kind and they always help me a lot. However, they are only more interested in helping my daughter than helping me and the rest of my family. They will give her money to get lunch, buy her clothes, send her to private school, buy expensive gifts for her and generally spoil her. However, they never showed any interest in my stepson. My stepson wanted a big party for his 16th birthday, and my wife asked me to ask for help from my family, but they refused to help. We threw a small party for him and my sister gave him a book and my brother gave him a shirt, which I thought were nice, well-thought gifts because this is a book he always wanted to have and the shirt is in his style. My wife, however, wasn't happy and asked me why it is okay for me that they gifted my daughter a PS5 for her birthday, but gave such gifts to my stepson. I told her that it's their money and their choice what to do with it, and she is acting entitled by expecting things, but she called me in a hole for letting them show such clear favoritism and I had to sleep on the couch last night.